and it does all these great things, and it's available in all these different colors. And this month it's 50% off, right? That's how we are with our business. And what we don't realize is that maybe our audience or our clients, what they actually need is a sandwich and not a stapler. But I know this stapler. I know the stapler inside and out. This is how I've always made my living, is pushing the stapler. Well, we need to actually think about what the audience, what the clients, what do they actually need? Do they really need the stapler, or could it be something else that we could actually offer them?
Yeah, your business's success depends on relationships. Relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Karl Ponto. Each week, I'll bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week, I'm excited to connect with Christine Blosdale. Christine, also known as the Expert Authority Coach, is a 5-time #1 best-selling author, award-winning radio personality, and the host of the Expert Authority Coach podcast. With over 25 years of experience in personal branding, magnetic marketing, and multimedia, Christine has helped countless entrepreneurs, coaches, authors, and thought leaders step into their brilliance and become the go-to authority in their field. A former content creator and for powerhouses like America Online and Microsoft, Christine brings her signature blend of media savvy and marketing magic to everything she does. Her coaching style is simple, easy, fun, and most importantly, effective. She's passionate about helping business owners rise, shine, and get seen, turning them from overlooked to in demand through authentic visibility and confident self-promotion. Congrats on your signature blend of media savvy and marketing magic, and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Thank you, Karl. I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you.
I'm really excited to have you on to talk about how people can improve their expert authority, because I think a lot of people, especially in the startup space, they're coming from an area or a background of it's all about the knowledge and demonstrating how intelligent you are and how much, talking about the expertise itself, and they don't really know how to tell stories well. So a lot of that expertise is not communicated very effectively, and the people that don't have a similar understanding often miss it. So how do you recommend people use storytelling to increase their expert authority?
Oh, well, one of the most important things, and we're finding this out now more than ever, is that as a society, we're craving authenticity. We see what's happening all around us in the world. We see what's happening in politics, in Hollywood, with the celebrities, in the music industry. And we see more and more as a society, we're also being able to see when somebody's lying, when somebody's not being truthful, when they're dodging the truth. And we're craving the truth. We're craving that real authentic human being who can communicate in ways that we understand. And what I do is with every client and every audience, depending on who the audience is, but I make sure that the stories that I tell are stories that people can actually either see themselves experiencing, or it's such a vivid picture that they can see it in their mind. They understand that feeling, that emotion, that transition, let's say, that I have myself have done, or my clients have done it when I'm talking about a story. So we're craving that, I think, as a society. And the more you're able to tap into that authenticity and relatability, then I think the more successful you'll be.
Yeah, I really like that, what you just said about the authenticity and helping people feel something, because there's this misconception that a lot of when someone is really well versed in a particular topic, they're an expert, they've studied, they probably have a PhD or an MA or some, and like master's degree, and they go to communicate with other people. They often, you see this a lot in the startup space, they start dropping numbers and facts and figures, and they think everyone's going to be so impressed with all this information that I know off the cuff. But if you poll or ask people after their presentation's over, and they wouldn't be able to remember any of those numbers, But if you're able to tell a story around the figures and facts and get them feeling something about the data or the knowledge, and have that be, well, I really understand this guy's making me feel something. I'm understanding why they're doing what they're doing, and there's a deeper connection on an emotional level. Then even if they don't remember all the facts and figures and numbers, they still remember how you made them feel, and that builds that trust because they feel like, okay, I like this person, and they obviously, I feel like they know what they're doing, and even though I don't understand everything as much as they do, I have that, I come away with this sense of I can trust this person when they're talking about these things because of how they made me feel, not all the numbers they spouted.
You just nailed it on the head. And this is what I try and tell my clients who are coaches, authors, speakers, thought leaders. I say, just because you know it in your head, you know the terminology, and you think that it's easy for other people to understand it, don't take that for granted, because we need to realize that the simpler we can make our concepts or our ideas, and the more that person who's listening to us or watching us, that they can absorb it and understand it, the more, that's the success right there, right? That's the success. You can have someone who's a, astrophysicist, and if they're able to give you an analogy that makes it so that you can grasp a very big concept, but you can actually understand it and grasp it with some simple terminology, then you're winning. Then you've got the whole world at your beck and call, really, at the point.
Yeah, I think it's one of the reasons why when you're talking, one of the like people making that transition from being a subject matter expert to trying to be a like authority figure or someone who's not like doing the work but kind of leading a team, or they're public facing and trying to explain the value of what they do, really has to, it's a huge paradigm shift that I'm sure obviously a lot of people struggle with. And so what are some of the ways you found to help people that are in that process reframe the way they approach how they communicate?
We need to do, and it's difficult for many people, but we need to actually put ourselves in the place of our audience, right? Or the person who's reading our blogs, or the person who's watching our videos. That's really, really important. And what happens is that as entrepreneurs and as business owners, we tend to go through the world with these blinders on, and we only see outside of our eyes. And so a little exercise that's really really good, and it also helps you if you have imposter syndrome. If you suffer from imposter syndrome, you can do the same exercise. And what it is that you do not want to focus on you, on how you look, what people might think, all those different things, but you need to focus on the people that you want to serve. Some of my clients who become the most successful have a passion to help people. And when we turn the focus on the people that they want to help and not on ourselves, it changes the game. It also makes your energy much easier and enjoyable to be around. And what we forget as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and coaches and authors is that we do carry a frequency. We carry an energy, and not to get too woo-woo on you, but it's just the truth. You've maybe been at you've been at a party or a gathering, and someone comes in, and even before they start to speak, you just feel something. You're like, ooh, I don't know. I'm not certain if I like that person's energy, right? And so the words that we use, the way we say them, and our own energy imprint is a huge thing. And so when we start to think about what other people, how they're perceiving us, but what other people need and want, then we can be a much better communicator. We also tend to, I give the analogy of the stapler versus the sandwich, right? And what we do is, as business owners, we go, I've got this stapler. It's the most amazing stapler. And it does all these great things, and it's available in all these different colors. And this month it's 50% off, right? That's how we are with our business. And what we don't realize is that maybe our audience or our clients, what they actually need is a sandwich and not a stapler. But I know this stapler. I know the stapler inside and out. This is how I've always made my living, is pushing the stapler. Well, we need to actually think about what the audience, what the clients, what do they actually need? Do they really need the stapler, or could it be something else that we could actually offer them?
Yeah, and I think it's such a great piece of advice about shifting the focus from, the way I've often put it is, what do I want to say versus what does my audience need to hear to understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Because, and this comes from whether you're communicating with potential clients or you're talking with your team members or just a partner, there's often a huge gap between the way you think you're saying something and the way it's being received by other people.
Yes.
And that can be a huge gap. And if you're not mindful or aware of that, then it doesn't matter what you think you're saying, because you're not being perceived the way you think you are, or people are not receiving it the way you think you are. And when you're if you're going from a mindset of, well, I'm the expert, so I know what the right thing is to say, is I know the subject really well. So you can just say whatever, and I'm going to be able to explain it well. It really is setting yourself up for a lot of problems and often failure, because it's not understanding the people involved and all the different kind of layers that your message has to go through before it's understood by the other people. Yeah. And it's often that, like, when you have that level of expertise, you haven't built those muscles enough to exercise, like to really communicate effectively.
I'll give you a great example. You as a podcast host, maybe you've encountered this from time to time, but I know I have. I've been a podcaster for 10 years. And before that, for 20 years, I was doing radio interviews. So I was meeting, authors and like some amazing people. For 20 years, hundreds, if not thousands of people. And what I found is, there was this one particular person who wrote a book, and the book, it looked and sounded amazing. The title was amazing. I flipped through it, some of the chapters. I was like, oh my gosh, this person is an expert in this field. And now I have this book, which is really handy for me, that I can, pull questions from. And then when I had this person on the radio show, on air, they were not able to communicate. Maybe they were able to write it out and put it in a book form, but when it came to actually speaking and communicating those key strategies, those things that they want the audience to know, it just wasn't happening. They would give like maybe 2 or 3 word answers when I asked the question. Exactly. It's every interviewer's like nightmare. But lovely person, but did not have the ability to communicate what they had written in that book. So we do need to make sure that we have the words to communicate. And words are powerful, Karl. That's why they call it spelling, right? Words are very powerful. We can use them to inspire people, to motivate, to give them, to evoke an emotion. So it's very, very, it's a big responsibility to be able to speak to people. And if you have that opportunity to do that on a large stage, then you need to be very, very cautious and very targeted in the words that you use.
Yeah, I think there's it's really fun, at least for the U.S. like education system and a lot of like academia, where if you're going to become a subject matter expert, an expert in some sort of field, you're going to go through a lot of schooling and writing papers. And it's interesting how the way people are taught how to write in school, and especially if you're doing like publishing journals and that type of writing, is almost the exact opposite of this type of writing you need to do if you're trying to explain it or market it or sell it to other people, because you're not trying to use flowery language. You're not trying to be super verbose and go into tons of detail, and you're not trying to show that you've cracked the spine of your thesaurus 900,000 times. You're just trying to be. You want to be more channeling Dr. Seuss than like any sort of like journal entry, because and that paradigm shift for a lot of experts is almost like unfounded or unreasonable, because it's such a weird way of doing things, and it's I found that there's also this, when you're coming from an area of expertise, you're very much in the traditionally like left brain knowledge and facts side of things, and unless you're like focusing on neurology stuff, you're often not going to understand that we make decisions with emotions. We're as much as we like to think of ourselves as thinking beings that feel, we're very much feeling beings that occasionally think. If you're trying to persuade people to buy something or to subscribe or take any sort of action, you need to have that emotional impact, that emotional message. And so it's something that I think it's important to have, like, for a business to have someone who's like a subject matter expert, and also like the influencers, and also the thought leaders, but they're very different roles. And it's so when you're thinking about especially if you're like, it's a executive who already has a certain job at the company, like understanding the difference between those sort of roles and how that you need to be communicating, and what skills people on your team need to have to fit those roles properly. And then working with someone who can help them, like you or other sort of coaches, to train them and help them understand what they don't know, because it seems like the more expertise you get in one area, the more often you're unable to realize how much you don't know about everything else, because you spend so much time in one discipline.
Yeah. And well, when it comes to, with leaders, when we're talking like, leaders of companies, management and things like that, what we tend to do, there's a power gap, right? And so a lot of times in organizations that I've been in and I've experienced, is that this power gap is, there's the worker bees, and then there's the boss bee, right? I won't say the queen bee, but it's the boss bee. And there's a divide, and there's a fear, right? There's this undercurrent of fear where the busy bees, the employee bees, want to make sure that they keep their job, because that's their security, right? Of course. And then you've got the boss bee, who has to make sure that everybody is doing their job and make sure that they're productive and all of this. But what we don't understand is in leadership, and I wish we could teach these things to children growing up, is that being a great leader, it doesn't just mean force, right? It doesn't mean just fear. It doesn't mean applying fear in order to get people to do what you want them to do. It does not work. Maybe it works, or it has worked in the past, but it's a really horrible way of doing business. And you won't have the staff, the people that's supposed to work for you, you will not have them behind your back, like getting your back. So when times are tough, they're not going to be there to support you. And if you've ever seen any of those movies where, there's a big ship and the captain has a bunch of crew people with, pulling the sails and doing all this stuff, you want to make sure everybody is trusting that person, and that there's some likability with that person, because it's so vitally important. And when you have someone who's in a leadership position who also knows what everybody does, this is the other thing. We put people in power positions in companies and organizations because they look good on paper, right? They have a great resume, and they've been able to bring up profits for particular companies. But if they don't have a connection to the people that work for them, and they don't know what they do, you'll have high turnover. People are not going to be happy, all of those different things. So I think that's really, really important for those people that are leaders, that are listening to this, that you want to take the time to know what the staff does, what the people that are in your organization actually do, and realize that you don't have to be everybody's best friend, but you do need to have that human connection with them. I think it's so important right now.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for connecting with me today, Christine. If you enjoyed
Yes.
this episode of the Human Connection podcast, please leave a comment and share it and subscribe. If you'd like to connect with myself or Christine, check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.